Amanda.
Hi.
Okay, we have a very special episode today.
I know.
We're going to talk about an icon we lost too soon.
We were planning to do this before
she passed.
I know.
So guys, we're gonna pay tribute to the great, legendary, iconic, incomparable Betty White. Right here.
May she rest in peace.
May she rest in power and peace. Right here on What Women Binge. So Amanda, we lost her too soon. I mean, I really didn't think she would ever die.
I mean, I thought we at least had to 105.
I thought at least, yeah. There was when I was growing up, there was a video they used to roll into the classroom to show you with Jiminy Cricket about how. So he used to say, "I'm gonna live to be 103 because I'm no fool." And it was all the things you could do to be stupid, like get in an accident or smoking or drinking and drugs. It was like that kind of thing. And Jiminy Cricket was the sort of giving you this PSA in school. And so I've always said I'm going to be 103.
They haven't given us much insight into what's happened to her, but she lived a long, full life.
She really did. Really did. And
though I would have loved to have seen her make it to 100, I also don't blame her for not sticking around for all of this.
No, exactly. Well, that's what I saw a meme that said 2021 took Betty White right at the end so that we didn't get mad at 2022.
I mean, there's a lot of truth in that.
Here's the thing. Like we had tickets to the 100th birthday tribute for her on January 17th at the movie theater where they were showing these specials of her.
Right.
And it's just like, but we had those tickets before and I just it's weird because I kept thinking right before she passed away, for weeks before, I was like, I don't know why I thought about her so much, but I was like, I have been on a Betty White kick.
This episode and on a Betty White kick, and I feel like you kind of idolize her. Like
I do. I think I see myself in her, and also I see my grandmother in her. My grandmother never got to be even 60, but it's weird because she on Golden Girls, if you put like her and Rue McClanahan together, that is my grandma. But at 58, right? Like my memories of her, she was like a lot younger than you would think for how they styled themselves back then. But yeah, Betty seemed like my grandma to me. She also looked a lot like my step grandma, which is weird.
Really?
A lot. I mean, like identical. Similar voices too. And I think I see myself in her with the career wise.
Absolutely.
So let's dive into her career a little bit before we talk about that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we've been doing our homework. I mean, whole lives on Betty White. I've been doing homework on this.
I feel like this is something in your mind you've been planning for your whole life because you have modeled so much of your own career after her.
I have. And I don't know that it was intentional because I wasn't really... Okay, so it's weird because even she'll talk about in her book and stuff, it was around 80, her mid-late, early 80s that she really kind of hit icon status, right?
Right.
I mean, of course, Golden Girls. Let's just start there.
I think that was our generation's introduction to her.
How I knew her, yes. Before, I didn't know Mary Tyler. I knew Mary Tyler Moore, but I didn't know Betty White was on Mary Tyler Moore. I was a huge fan of Golden Girls. I think it's weird as like a 10-year-old girl to go and wait on, what was it, like Wednesday night or something to watch these old ladies just be hilarious. And
I feel like I watched it after school a lot.
Oh, yeah? You were watching it on like Nick at Night?
Yeah, it was on. Or maybe it was TBS or something like that where, syndication, where they were just on all the time. But it was definitely on a lot.
Yeah.
So I watched through childhood, which...
Yeah. And it's not the kind of show you have to watch chronologically by
not
any
at all.
means.
They're all complete stories.
Yeah, and it's and each one of them held their own in such a brilliant way. But here's a little tidbit I found out about it. I was listening to Betty White's book on tape, and I've been reading these books about her, including this children's book here, the little golden book about Betty White. I read that with Tucker, and everything points to the fact this I did not know until she passed, that she was a huge animal person. I don't know how I didn't know that, but everything from like spending time with Coco the gorilla at Christmas time, would always have a dog that she would sponsor for the that was being trained for as a seeing eye dog, and of course rescued a ton of animals and just loved her animals. I read
somewhere that she had 36 dogs at one point.
And in her book that I was listening to, which is called if you ask me, and I'm sure you won't, and I don't think you will, or something like that. She says in there, it's a really simple book. It's just really about her life up to 89, and really it's about the last few projects she was on. Mm-hmm. It kind of starts at her with Hot in Cleveland and that kind of thing. Goes through the proposal. She talks a lot about the Valentine. What was it called? My Last Valentine. She had a blast on that with Jennifer Love Hewitt, a Hallmark movie. She talks a lot about that, but she talks about she lost a lot of her pets at the same time.
Oh.
And then she was saying, and this is at 89, if she knew she was going to live at least 110 or 11 more years, she might not have said this, but she was like, I've outlived another puppy. Like I can't get a puppy because I won't be here for it to get old. Oh. So I think I'm going to adopt an old dog. And then she does get a dog named Pontiac. That's a seeing eye dog that I think doesn't go through the training properly or something, so she adopts it. And I think Pontiac might have been with her at the end, but I'm really not sure. But here's what I learned about Golden Girls. Funny enough, she was supposed to. So on Mary Tyler Moore's show, she played Sue Ann Nivens, who the very first episode, which is the first episode of season 4, she, by the way, I didn't know she wasn't in all the seasons, but she was only from
in
4
the
on.
First, right? Or
she
no,
wasn't
she was
in the first
later.
3 seasons. Yeah.
Okay, I thought she was in the beginning.
No, and that's what I did too. And I started there, and then I had to skip around to try to find her in it. And she was in season 4, episode 1. She plays Sue Ann Nivens is a kind of a house, a blunt, man-lusting star of the show Happy Homemaker on the news channel that Mary Tyler Moore works for, and she in the very first episode and is like non-apologetic about this. She steals Phyllis's husband from a party that Mary's having. So Mary's having a party. Sue Ann leaves with the husband very bluntly, like, he's taking me home. And Phyllis is like, my husband? And he doesn't come home for a few hours, and then he starts disappearing at the office, and Mary knows what's going on but can't say anything to Phyllis. But then eventually Phyllis comes to work and finds out. Somebody slips, and she just plays this like very blunt, like just lasting after him. And they basically get into a fight on set about who's going to get the husband, who's going to get him. And she's like, so Phyllis goes to her and says, you're going to leave him alone. And she goes, no, I'm not. And it's like this weird moment of like, especially in those days, like I was taken by the fact that it seems like it's not
like such a taboo, but like
she's not even ashamed of it. Like she's not, I'm so sorry. It's, no, I love him too. I'm not giving him up. And she's like, tough luck. And they just like fight it out about him. And then she has this great moment. She's baking a souffle, and she's very like buttery sweet about it. She's super like sugary, like, sorry, I love him. Do you want some souffle? Oh, don't mess with my souffle. It has to. And she takes the souffle out of the oven, does this great knee kick thing where she slams the oven closed. And it's like a brilliant moment in comedy. And then at the end, Phyllis takes the chocolate out of the souffle and flings it on her. Goes, do you know how to get chocolate out of stains out of a apron? She's like, yeah, I do. She's like, good. And she throws the chocolate on her. Like, that's the end of the episode. Because she had played the man-loving, like, lusty woman, she was supposed to play Blanche on Golden Girls. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Isn't that crazy? She was supposed to be Blanche, and Rue McClanahan was supposed to play Rose. But during the pilot, the director decided to switch the roles. I don't know how the director, I feel like directors these days don't have that kind of power. You got to go to the showrunner. You got to go to the, if you're like on Young Sheldon, it's got to be like Steve Milaro, and then you got to go to Chuck Lorre, and then, there's a lot of, I can't believe the director was like, you guys should switch roles. But he made him switch roles. And I mean, can you imagine her not being Rose? Can you imagine her not being the Polish woman telling the jokes about
it was so iconic for her.
I know. It was back in St. Olaf and the whole thing. Like,
I also don't think of her as like this vixen-y character.
I know. That was, I had to go back and watch the Mary Tyler Moore because I was like, I want to see her as a vixen. I mean, she was hot, man.
Gorgeous.
And I also watched Life with Elizabeth.
Yes.
Life with Elizabeth. So here, let me give you a little rundown. So she started off on Life with Elizabeth. That was her first show. Mm-hmm. She produced it herself. So she was like a big radio star.
How old was she then?
She was in her 30s, I think, when she started. Yeah, like maybe 30 when she did Life with Elizabeth. So it's about her and her husband. It's like a marriage. Wait, I have a little cheat sheet here.
And that's like brunette Betty White, right?
Yes, she's a brunette.
Mm-hmm.
She looks a lot younger than 30. But, the very first episode, so these little like almost vignettes, there's like in every episode, there were 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting. It's a little before its time because she talks to the camera. There's an announcer who says, so in this episode, Elizabeth is going to blah, blah, blah. She brings home a parrot and her husband's not happy about it. And so she and her husband get in this fight about this parrot and all the animals she's trying to adopt, which is funny. Like,
Because it's her real life.
A little foreshadowing to her, like taking in every pet. The episode ends and it's like, right, Elizabeth? And she's like, that's right. And she says it right to the camera. And, when we were doing Clarissa in 1990, we thought that was groundbreaking, but, Ferris Bueller had done it. But, like, it's just interesting because I didn't know. Nobody
She'd done it before you.
Starts that, says that she was the groundbreaker of the breaking the fourth wall, talking to the camera thing. So it's really interesting to me. I found it to be a cute little show. She produced it herself, which was groundbreaking as it was.
A woman producing anything back then would have been a big deal.
Yeah, it was 1952. And I Love Lucy came out in 1950. So some people say it was like a copy of Lucy, but she wasn't as... What I liked about it was she was a little bit more mature maybe than Lucy. Lucy, what we all love about Lucy is that she's just a hot mess, right? She's just like over the top physical comedy, like outrageous comedy. So in 1950 was I Love Lucy. And I feel like what's interesting is, of course, we all love Lucy because she was like over the top, funky, fun, physical comedy, just really like outrageous comedy. Mm-hmm. And Elizabeth is a little bit more of a smart cookie, kind of
more calculated.
I feel like their marriage is a little bit more of a partnership than like Lucy and Desi feel a little bit like he's trying to wrangle her in, she's trying to make him happy, but also get what she wants. And like, it feels a little bit more separate as a marriage. It like doesn't feel much like a marriage like this. In Life with Elizabeth, there's one episode where they just sit on the couch and talk. I think it's all done in like one shot or something. So,
wow.
I mean, those episodes were short. They were like 10 minutes. But I found it to be really nice, and I actually got into a fight with someone on IMDb, their review.
This I love about you. She loves to say that she doesn't want to cause a stir. She doesn't want to fight with people. She can deal with conflict or whatever, but whatever.
Ask my husband.
And then she calls me yesterday, and she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't answer. I was getting in a fight with someone online because of what they said on IMDb about Betty White. And I was like, okay. Did you check the name in which you posted?
I did not. But yeah, my review is under review, so they haven't quite posted it yet, I think. But they basically someone said they watched Life with Elizabeth. It was okay. It wasn't as good as Lucy or something like that. And then they said, but if it wasn't for, and they said, and then I went and found like some DVDs of Golden Girls and watched that. But if it wasn't for Hot in Cleveland, there was this huge Grand Canyon chasm in her career where nobody heard from her in years. And if it wasn't for Hot in Cleveland, she wouldn't have reached the icon status she did. And I was like, did you not know Golden Girl? Like, I got a little like, excuse me. I don't know her from Life with Elizabeth. I don't know her from Hot in Cleveland. I mean, I know her because of those things, but I know her from Golden Girls. And I got a little personal there.
A little defensive.
I got a little out of respectfully like to say to that person.
Were you respectful?
Well, I put the respectfully in there, meaning like, and actually it's funny because I hate people that say, I'm just being honest. Because like, no, don't be a dick. If being honest is not an excuse for being a dick. It's like what my mom always said, like if
You can say anything you want to say as long as you say it with respect.
Well, my mom always said, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. But
you couldn't not say.
No, but he was disrespectful. She doesn't have a Grand Canyon chasm in her career. Like the thing is about her is she had a nonstop career.
She did not.
I mean, if you look at her IMDb, she has been in. Let me just list a few of these things for you guys. This is just a small list. These are just the things I know that she was in as a guest star. Right? Mm-hmm. This is just TV shows she guest starred in. The Client List, Boston Legal, SpongeBob, Bones, Young and Hungry.
SpongeBob?
Yeah, she's a voice in SpongeBob. Sometimes she's playing herself, but sometimes she's not. I mean, she has a fantastic voice, so why not?
Of course.
Young and Hungry, Community, which she did a few episodes. If you go to Yvette Nicole Brown, did a beautiful tribute to her, a few posts of her trying to work with her backstage on Community, doing some singing that she had to do. Soul Man, she did the crossover. That was as Elka, which Elka is her character on Hot in Cleveland. She was on The Middle, 30 Rock, and WWE, both of those as herself, as Betty White. She was on Ugly Betty. She was on My Wife and Kids, The Practice, Simpsons, Family Guy, Toy Story 4. She plays Bitey White in all these little like these little short films that Pixar does. She plays Bitey
hysterical.
White. Isn't that funny? St. Elsewhere. She did a crossover on Empty Nest as Rose. She was on Fame, Mama's Family. She did 16 episodes of Mama's Family. She did Love Boat, which was also with Gavin MacLeod, who was also in Mary Tyler Moore Show.
I've seen those episodes.
I mean, that's just a little bit of, that is a busy woman. We're talking about in her 60s.
Yes.
Like,
there was not a big gap in her career.
There's
She
no
kept
gap.
going.
It's funny though. A lot of people credit I think it's The Proposal with kind of her comeback, but I think it's really Lake Placid. Remember Lake Placid?
Mm-hmm.
She plays the old lady. There's a giant alligator in this lake, Placid, and they can't figure out. People keep dying and disappearing. It's like, this giant monster alligator.
I have not thought about this movie in so long.
I know, but it's Betty White's like, and the thing is, she did a lot of movies too.
Mm-hmm.
Like she did, what were some of them? She did a ton of movies. She did You Again, which was the one. Actually, that's more recent too. But she did the Lake Placid is one of the ones she did.
At the 90s?
No, You Again is like
No,
Jamie.
Lake Placid.
Oh, Lake Placid's like 90s, I think. 90s, maybe late 90s. She so she plays the old lady that it turns out is like feeding a cow to the alligator, which is why the alligator.
Yes.
It's like her pet.
Yes.
And you find out later on that like she's behind the reason this giant creature keeps killing everybody. So it's really a funny character. And then The Proposal, I mean.
It was so great.
And she talks about that with such love in her heart. You can hear it in her book and stuff. She talks about how she, loved being on the set of Proposal. She didn't want to leave. It was supposed to be 12 weeks, I think they said, the shoot. And they shot it in Boston, which it takes place in Alaska. So I'm shocked. I don't know if maybe they moved it to Alaska. But in her book, she says that they were going to shoot it in Boston for 12 weeks and they cut it down to like 6 weeks. And she was like, all right, then I'll go. Because she never liked to work out of town. I wish I could take that note from her. She never liked to work out of town.
Well, you chose Nashville.
I chose Nashville, so I have to work out. But the thing is now the industry is Atlanta, Vancouver, Baton Rouge, a lot in Europe now. I'm shooting movies in Tahoe and Montana last year. And, so yeah, I feel like I'm never home. My kids are like sick of me leaving, but she said I make a point of never leaving town if I don't have to. And she just had animals. I have 3 children that
kiddos.
Complain and whine to me all the time. But all right, so we covered a little bit of Golden Girls. I mean that.
But we didn't talk about Golden Palace, which just released on Hulu in honor of Ms. White.
I don't remember this from the past. Do you remember this from back then?
No, I never saw this. Logan says he saw it as a child.
I can't believe it. It was Golden Palace has, well, let's see. First you have her in Life with Elizabeth. They did 17 episodes. That was from 52 to 55. Then you have Mary Tyler Moore Show. She did 45 episodes from 70 to 77. So that's around the time I'm being born. She was 49 years old when she did Mary Tyler Moore. Is that right?
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't look.
No.
She's like a hot to trot woman stealing husbands. Yeah, she was born in Illinois, January 17th, 1921. But then she did the Betty White Show. I haven't seen that one.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's 14 episodes. I don't know if it's like talk show style. I'm not really sure. But then Golden Girls, 177 episodes.
Wow.
And then Hot in Cleveland, 129. By the way, she's in her late 80s when she's doing Hot in Cleveland.
And she is hilarious in Hot in Cleveland.
So I watched the first episode. It's the only one I've ever seen. And the reason why I'm wearing like this thermal little tracksuity thing here is in honor of her line that she says as Elka in Hot in Cleveland. She says at the end of it, they go, "What is it with old ladies in tracksuits?" She goes, "In your 20s, what does she say? In your 20s, you dress for men. In your 30s, you dress for success. In your 40s, you dress for yourself. And in your 80s, you dress for the toilet." I was like, oh, I love that. And when I'm in my 80s, I'm going to so rock the tracksuit.
Yes.
I've got to. On her birthday, I rocked a tracksuit too.
I am all about a matching set.
Oh, yeah.
Sporty or not. I mean,
so your outfit today is?
I did this in honor of her because I felt like it was reminiscent of the Golden Girls couch.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was going for. But also,
you need, like the bamboo legs and stuff.
Yeah, Blanche, rocks a lot of matching
silky pajama sets.
So this is my Golden Girls ode.
I like it.
It's so comfortable.
I like it. The Golden Girls. Gosh, I love the show. I mean, Estelle Getty, B. Arthur. So here's the craziest thing, Rose. Betty White was the oldest of the 4. Yeah. And outlived them all.
And Estelle, who played the oldest of them all,
was actually the youngest. She was like 56 or something like that when she did it.
And she looked much older.
But I think she did that great. I was watching Golden Palace and thinking about her and her age and comparing it to like my mom, who's that age now. And like how my mom climbed Kilimanjaro a few years ago and like just did the Camino de la Santiago across Spain or whatever. But like Estelle Getty as that role is like hunched over, really stiff. I mean, she embodied that, whether or not that was really her.
Imagine the pressure, though, to place or the feelings behind playing someone who not only is like that character is that age, but you look it.
Yeah.
That's got to be really hard.
Especially when you're like, when you're not yet that age, yeah, and you're actually in your 50s and you could look hot and you're, maybe you've got tight abs or great legs and you're having to wear those muumuus and that wig and those giant glasses. I mean, she has reflections of the lights in her glasses constantly.
So Betty was a brilliant woman, a very intelligent woman. And in her book, she talks about this a little bit and how people kind of assume that she's a bit of she's not.
She's a little bit dumb.
Yes.
She makes fun of that in Golden Palace.
Yes.
Right? Is that what you're going to say?
And that was my favorite part of the whole show.
Yeah.
The writing is brilliant. It's clearly the same writers from Golden Girls.
And Don Cheadle's in it and Cheech Marin, and it's so interesting and clever, but at the same time doesn't quite hit the same way.
Right. And I'm wondering, as a woman in Hollywood, a blonde woman, and a woman who plays comedy so often, are you boxed in like that? Sometimes they want you to play the dumb blonde? Because that's so not you.
I've really never played the dumb blonde. I got a lot of people asking me why I wasn't in Legally Blonde. Legally Blonde. Legally Blind is, I'm writing a script that has that in there. So that's why I had a lot of people ask me why I wasn't in Legally Blonde. But I think because of Clarissa being as kind of witty and sharp as she was, and a little bit mouthy and tough and nonconformist, I think that I instead got put into the girl next door category as opposed to the dumb blonde. And also because I wasn't like the leggy, model trophy wife-ish. I'm kind of the short, goofy.
Out.
Yeah, I'm more Betty White than like Pamela Anderson. I guess.
But I remember her, talking about that was a struggle, that sometimes they tried to, after
Golden
Rose, that they tried to make her that character.
Well, so what we were talking about in Golden Palace, they say that she is being held up by gunpoint with a guy with a mask on, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, aren't you hot? You must be from out of town because here in Florida we don't wear that. Like, you must be warm and behind that mask." And he like holds the gun and she's like, "Oh, you want to he's like, "Where's the safe?" And she goes, "You want to put your gun in the safe? I get it. Let me call the guy, the manager, because I don't know the safe number." And she's like, "He'll be down in a minute." And he's waiting and he's like, "Forget it. I'll go across the street to the Ritz-Carlton." And she gets on the phone and calls 911 and she's like, "There's a man in a ski mask who's got, hazel color eyes.
She
He's
gives
about
the perfect description.
Perfect description. And then goes, "Everyone thinks I'm just a dumb blonde." And then she goes, she goes, "Oh, I called 411, not 911. Can you give me the number for 911, please? Thank you." And like, you're right back to where like,
oh, it was perfect.
They give you that little bit of like
that delivery.
Yeah. And it must have been for her.
And she looked in the camera for that line too.
She did, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. She just bit into it.
It was perfect.
Yeah, it really was. And,
I laughed out loud. Like,
and the thing about her comedy is it's so like kind of, it flies under the radar in a way that makes it really authentic. Right when you think that she's telegraphing a joke, like I can't stand when people telegraph jokes. That's a big thing for me. I'm always looking for the twitch or the thing that they do when they think they're funny. Like, haha, I'm funny. She seems to give it, and then she immediately comes out of it. And it's this really interesting where you're like, you can't tell if she telegraphed her. Like, did she telegraph it or wait, hold on. Because like Jerry Seinfeld telegraphs every joke, right? He's like, here comes a punchline, that kind of thing.
But
like
that's
a stand-up does.
Yeah.
Because he's not really an actor. He's more of a stand-up. But there's a lot of actors that do it, and a lot of great actors. And I don't know if maybe it just bugs me because I look for it because I feel it in myself too, and I fight against it so much. But she really, there's always a glint where she gives this little smile, and then she's like right into the like
back in the moment.
Yeah. So I can't tell if she was. I don't think she's telegraphing it, but she does do it in all of her projects, really. But she's just so stellar. She's so on the spot. She's rehearsed. She knows her line. Like, you can tell. She actually in her book talks a lot about Tim Conway, who I got to work with at the end of his life. By the way, all her friends, like, so sad, all her friends left her, being that old. Like, I'm glad you're younger than me, Amanda, because when I moved to Nashville, one of my friends said, make sure you make younger friends so that you're the first to go and you don't get left behind. Oh, gosh. So thank you for being younger than me.
Okay. Leaving notes for your funeral.
Yes. Well, that's another thing. In Betty White's book, she says she has this dining room table that's starting to stack up because she had this office that was embarrassing. And she was like, someday I'm going to tackle the office, but the dining room table is becoming this like hole of all my paperwork and all the things I need to do someday. She's like, I have to do it before I die because I don't want to leave this. She talks a lot about death. She also talks about Estelle Getty was terrified of death and wouldn't let them have death jokes in the. But then again, I feel like she's I feel like Estelle Getty always said
She
things
made all the
like-
death goat.
She did, right?
Yeah.
She's like, my grave, or
Yeah.
I feel like there was a lot
I'm
of
not
that.
going to be here for long. Yeah.
Yeah. She would always kind of say something about like, well, when I'm dead, you'll regret that or something, you know? But apparently she wasn't really comfortable with those jokes. Estelle had a really big problem with that.
So let me ask you before we wrap
Yeah.
up, what about Betty and her career will you miss the most?
The ongoing nature of like what's coming next. The proposal is probably my favorite thing, but it also gives me hope. My bucket list, there were 3 things I wanted to do in my career. It was being a star in a feature film, which I was lucky enough to be in 2, God's Not Dead 2 and Drive Me Crazy. I always wanted to be in the Thanksgiving Day Parade, but I realized I wasn't on NBC and I can't sing, so that's probably never going to happen. I've given that one up. I'm okay with that.
I'm not giving that one up for you.
Although Lifetime does a Christmas one every year. I'm like, why can't I be on that one with whoever's singing? I can't sing, but I'll stand there and pretend.
If you
But they
get to
just
go, I'm
pretend.
going with you.
I always wanted to host Saturday Night Live. Every actor wants to host Saturday Night Live. That is like the dream. That is the bucket list. But you don't get to say live from New York at Saturday night if you host. That's a funny little side note. But and that's really all I want to do is say live from New York. I don't need to host. I just want to say live from New York.
just want to be
at
on
Saturday night.
SNL.
Yeah. My brother got to because he played one of George Bush Sr.'s little kids in a skit, and he had I think he was playing Jeb, and he had his mouth full of popcorn when the time came to say it, because they gave the kids popcorn so they'd be quiet. And he missed the cue, and I was watching at home, and I was so mad. He's like,
you have my opportunity, and
he's 8 years younger than me, and he blew it. He blew it. He was like 6 years old, and he blew it.
you're not bitter or anything.
No, but for her, so she says that she did a Snickers commercial, and from the Snickers commercial, the fans decided they wanted her to host SNL, and it was like a fan Facebook thing that she became the host of SNL at like 80 years old. I think she was 80. Oldest host ever. Just killed it. Knocked it out of the park. I mean, the woman is just flawless, but she said she was, this made me feel better too. She's so nervous. She said she was incredibly nervous. And she talks you through, in the audiobook, she talks you through the steps you have to take when you do Saturday Night Live, which I've never known before, actually.
Right.
Even though I grew up in New York and I was on it as a child, Billy Ocean said he dedicated Caribbean Queen to me on stage, but he didn't actually say that out loud to the audience. He just told me that backstage.
Oh.
But I'm not from the Caribbean, so it's okay. But it, that's like, I mean, the fact that she got to do that, the way that she got to do it, the excitement she felt for it, the nervousness she felt for it, just shows she was such a humble, beautiful person. Her love for animals, she describes her love for her 3 stepkids. And even though she was married 3 times, her true love was Alan London. And she was also a big lover of game shows, on a lot of game shows. And he was the host of Password. And that's how they met. And he passed away way before her, and she never remarried. And she said she loves being alone. Because I was worried about her, like, without kids to take care of you or your husband, and what do you do? But she had her animals, she had her friends. She took playing cards very seriously, but she worked consistently and loved working. And God, I just hope I'm like that. And I hope that someday, like, I feel like that's the dream, to have her kind of career, right? Where you get to just be a working actor, you get to entertain, make people laugh, which is what it's all about. Bring some comfort, bring some joy, make people smile. Her dance number on The Proposal is brilliant, when she and Sandra Bullock are dancing from the window to the wall, from the window to the wall. And she keeps saying that. It's just, if you haven't seen that movie, you got to watch it. It's amazing. And I think my homework's going to be to go home and watch the Betty White show, because I've never seen it.
I know.
And to keep going through Golden Girls, because, man, it's such good television.
Well, I think you have someone very, very cool to look up to and to continue to model yourself after. I mean, what a worthy idol to have.
In every way. I mean, she, even in her love for her husband, like, they say that on her deathbed, she just said, like, hi, Alan, or something like that. Like, she saw him.
Isn't that
She
amazing?
was passing away. I don't know if that's true or not, but I love it. And I
I hope it is.
hope it is. And even if it's not, it's a great way to end the story.
I know.
Story of Betty White, just days before she turns 100. 2021 took a lot from us, and took her too. And I really didn't think she'd ever go, but I'm glad she was here. It's like Dr. Seuss said, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. So thank you, Betty White, for so many years of entertainment and guidance and instruction into how we should better live our lives and be a better example to humanity. And we love you, and we miss you.